This is actually my first To the Woods episode, where I'm going to be speaking with Shan Cunningham. And Shan, I'll ask you real quick because everybody knows with the concussions I have, I can't keep everything straight anyway. But tell us a little bit about yourself, within the community, right?
Okay. Yep. Well, I wear a lot of hats.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So my newest hat, I just took over as the interim president for the Nova Scotia Federation of Anglers and Hunters.
That's right.
I'm also the vice president for Safari Club, second vice president for Safari Club Nova Scotia chapter.
Yep.
I'm pro staff over at Bass Pro Shop Cabela's store.
And I think that's where a lot of people probably know you from.
They probably would in the internet, Facebook. I'm all over Facebook and
yeah,
Instagram.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes too much. I try to avoid all the arguments. But
any other pro staff?
Pro staff, Tacticam. I'm the national team lead for that one. So I have a team of I don't know, probably 20 or 30 members all across Canada and stuff. So help run that one for Tacticam, and then just a number of other companies there. And I just took on a new job for Bait Your Hook. So
that's right. That's something, that Bait Your Hook, and it's baityourhook.com. Is that right?
Yeah, so Book Your Hunt, actually, they've been around for about 5 years, and we've had our outfitter business, and I also an outfitter and guy along with my wife, Sali.
Yes.
And
we've run Ursa Major, right?
Ursa Major Outfitters, yeah. So we do hunting and fishing. We mostly specialize in bear hunts. So we get a lot of American, German, European clients, but this year with COVID, we had no clients. We've been hunting ourselves, and that was the other hat I took on. We just signed on with WildTV for Canada Hunt, so we've been doing a lot of filming this fall for that to get ready for some episodes.
That's right, and I know we're thinking we were going to talk about. So I'm kind of curious about that, so I'm going to ask, like, how does something like that come up? I think there's a lot of hunters out there that are kind of curious. How does one? What's the path to something like that? Like
that one.
How did you guys manage to? Not well. I understand why someone would want to have the two of you on a show. It does have both of you, and together as a package, even more so. But how does a new hunter perhaps look at trying to get their name out? What are some of the things they might try to do? What did you guys do? What was the secret?
I mean, we really started off. I mean, once we started off as our own outfitter business, that's how we get involved in pro staffing. We started with a lot of American companies,
right?
And that was, I mean, a lot of them, you'll pro staff for some of these companies, they'll give you, like 30% off of that product, whatever you're dealing with, and you promote it on social media. Well, we're all over social media anyway, and for us, it wasn't so much about the discount or the status of it or anything else. It was more so that where we had American clients mostly, then they recognize our names out there, and then that in turn brings business back to us as outfitters. So that's why we mainly got into any of this pro staff stuff to begin with,
right?
And it was to benefit our business, really, is what it came back as, and then everything just kind of snowballed from there, and then it turned into.
I've told you before that I think just before we kind of got started that I kind of follow along, and I like Donnie Vincent, and his films and that, and I was watching him in an interview, and he said that ultimately this job found him. It wasn't something he set out. There is no real path, and trying to do it the way somebody else did it was kind of pointless, because once that way has kind of been forged, it almost closes up behind him. My point, I suppose, is for any young hunters or older hunters that are interested in doing that, I think it is about just staying true to yourself, isn't it? And just keep plugging along.
Yeah. And a lot of the pro staff stuff, we've seen it around. We know a lot of people it's happened to, is that, it's ruined the relationships and stuff, because it puts a strain on. If you're on your phone all the time advertising for these companies and constantly going into these pages and stuff, and I mean, Sally and I get away with it because we both do it. So all evening long here tonight, we're both on our phones dealing with stuff. And
you had a point yesterday.
We turn it off and we'll sit and watch an hour TV or so, and then we go lay in bed and do the same thing on the phones for another hour or so before we go to sleep. So
the social media, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because
for sure.
Once you're kind of in, and then you have, you know, some financial requirement to stay on top of it. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, there's no, you know, if I go off Facebook for 4 weeks, nobody cares. Right? People are wondering what happened to me, you know, but nobody cares, and it doesn't affect my pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
It's
But,
there's no real consequence for me. But
anybody getting into it, if they're going to pro staff like that, the big thing is you got to believe in the product you're taking.
ooh,
Like, I mean, if I you know, I drink out of a Yeti cup, like it's
yeah,
all, you know, we love Yeti products, so yeah, we'll promote them some. I mean, they're such a huge company, they could care less about anything we're promoting for them, but it's something we believe in. We use that product, or maybe a certain brand of Broadhead or something, that's the
sure,
one that I hunt with, so I have no problem promoting it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
could care less about the 30% discount, because if they're an American company, by the time I pay customs and duties
Yeah.
and everything else to get it up here, it's cheaper for me to go to Young Guns and buy it off the shelf
Yeah,
at retail than it is to try and use a discount to ship it here. So,
yeah.
so
But
it's what you get
having
into it.
being able to have them promote you in some way because
Yeah,
you're promoting
exactly.
them has
Yeah,
its advantages in order to bring in clients and
yeah,
sort of up
exactly.
that
Yeah, and I shoot those brand Broadheads anyway, so I have no problem bragging them up because I
yeah,
believe in them. So
no,
even
no,
if I wasn't staffing for that company, I would still tell people that I believe in that kite. I mean, everybody has their own brand of Broadhead. We
yeah,
won't go down that rabbit hole, but
no, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah. They're and it's interesting how many of them, you know, are so very similar, and then
yeah,
there are those that are so very different too. You know, I think talking about broadheads, I this is kind of one of those things I'm hoping that you know, in future episodes, you know, I get to do a lot of is jump. You know, I take a look at something like the toxic broadheads. Now,
yeah.
I've not tried the toxic broadhead.
That's the ones I'm talking about. That's what I shoot.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Because
it is.
because I do know other people, and I didn't realize that you were using
Yeah,
toxic, or if I did, I had forgotten. You may have told me at one point. But I have other friends that shoot them, and they're a cut on contact. Which, as a traditional guy, I that if the broadhead isn't cut on contact, you've already kind
yeah,
of lost me. That's not to say that I don't believe that some of the guys that are shooting the expandables and mechanical broadheads, they have their advantages. I don't disagree, but that toxic broadhead, because of the way the foils or the blades curl,
yeah,
it really makes meatworms as it goes through
yeah,
that animal,
exactly. Yeah,
and it doesn't make like I shoot a 3 blade fixed broadhead,
yeah,
and it does well for me. I shoot a specific one because the blades come over the shaft, and for me, because I use the tip of my arrow sort of as a reference when shooting, it's as close to a field point as I can find. That's the reason why I
yeah.
shoot it. The toxic broadhead, it when it goes through, it must leave one wicked hole as opposed
Oh,
to
good. Yeah,
now when it
yeah.
hits when it hits ribs and bones and things like that coming off one of your bows. And what are you shooting?
Yeah.
55-ish pounds or
My bow, I'm 73, I think, 73
oh,
pounds.
you're one of those
Yeah.
fellas.
So, like, so I can put through a cinder block wall probably,
Okay. So,
but
so
yeah, it'll chew through bone, no problem. So,
so you're shooting
but
you're shooting quite a heavy bow.
yeah,
So when that goes through an animal, it's going through bone and the rest of it. I mean, it if it comes out the other side, it must make one hell of a mess out the other side to
yeah,
fall.
I've never had a not have had a pass through. It's always
Right.
passed through. I mean, that bear I took this year, you saw the video. It went through and stuck into the ground on the other
Yes,
side. And
that's
when the
right.
bear turned, that's what snapped the arrow off. The arrow
Yeah,
would have never broke it, but the downward angle took it into
yeah,
the
yeah.
ground. But it was
The fletching ended up it's still inside the chest cavity, even though the
yeah,
broadhead was stuck into the it was like a not a log, but
a
like
tree root or something.
tree
Yeah,
root. Yeah,
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 it
yeah,
would.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so that yeah. I find those types of let's call them innovations
Yeah.
or new ideas very interesting. How do you find they fly? Like do
That's what I like about it. For me, they fly exactly where my field point's at. So that's
they
what I
do?
like. I don't have to adjust. Like when I practice, on my bag target, and
Yeah,
what I do when I want to sight those ones in to check them
yeah,
is I use a big thick block of styrofoam because I don't want to chew up my bag target. So then
absolutely.
I'll drive that through into styrofoam and I'll practice from different heights and angles and it hits exactly where those field points hit. So there's no adjusting needed. So I can go back and forth. And
Yeah. for
You're
any
not
new
worried
bow
about it.
hunters, for any new bow hunters out there that might end up seeing this, that, you know, the idea of finding something to shoot your broadhead into, a single broadhead. You don't be shooting all your, don't be shooting all of your new broadheads and to see if they're all flying. Pick one.
Yeah.
Pick one or a
Yeah,
couple.
I don't mind because it's all encased in styrofoam bits, so I know that's my
yeah,
my practice.
yeah.
Practice.
So, but it's important to find something. I know that I use a one of those blocks that's the layered, right? And now, because I'm a 3-blade, or actually I've always been a 3-blade broadhead guy. You know, they don't leave holes, so the toxic broadhead would destroy one of those in no time at all.
Oh, and getting them out is crazy because they just chew into the fibers, and then you know,
exactly.
you pretty well got to shove it all the way through to get it out.
Yeah, but it is important for those new bow hunters out there. You have to test that broadhead. You have to know that it's not pulling 2 inches left, 2 inches right, high or low. I mean, that's just something that, and we go over that when we go over the bow hunting, the bow hunter safety course to some extent. You know, mainly just when we're talking about ethics and making sure that our equipment's working properly. But it's something that I think perhaps some people take. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for here? You know, your some of the marketing on many of the things out there say shoots just like a field point. And as a new bow hunter, you know, you might believe that. You might just go, you know, and the truth is that it's not always the case. And one broadhead that works for you may not work for me. It may not be true, right?
Well, I've talked to guys. They've tried the toxics and don't like them. They've had trouble with them. They didn't have pass-throughs, and and the thing too with a lot of broadheads, there's so many knockoff companies now that you'll go on Amazon and order one, and it might say toxic broadheads, and then you get it there and realize it was made in China, and it's not the same metal, and it's not even the same thing. And they're not the only company. Many of them have knockoffs. So
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my father and brother both golf, and you know, I'm not sure either one of them are actually using an actual set from whatever the sticker on it is. So you can get knockoff anything. If a 17-year-old girl is walking down with some $2,000 purse on her arm at Lockview High School, chances are she bought it knockoff on the streets of New York one time. So lots of knockoffs. I've been talking about a couple different things online, and I've been seeing a lot of conversation about it on some of the social media posts that I follow, or social media groups. Stickbow Chronicles, the Stickbow Chronicles, I think out of Arizona, recently posted some changes that are being considered regarding cell cameras, not sort of regular cameras, but cell cameras. And if I remember correctly, BC, British Columbia, have voted in the change, but they don't take place until sometime in 2021, where cell cameras can be used for scouting, but once the season starts, you can't use cell cameras anymore. There's a lot of different conversation, and I think the conversation revolves around one's perception of what fair chase is, and whether or not a cell cam can be used as a tool, like any tool, and still be considered fair chase. Where do you fall on? Do you use cell cams yourself? I guess that's the first question.
We use quite a few cell cams. Sally, my wife, she's with Spy Point. I used to be with Spy Point.
Right.
And then Tacticam actually come up with their own cell camera. So I left Spy Point when Tacticam come up with theirs, just for conflict of interest. But we use both. For the two types. I mean, there are other companies out there.
Oh, without
for us, I don't know. We probably have about 8 cellular cameras and the Cell Link for Spy Point and stuff we use, and Tacticam and stuff. So we have them all through the woods. They have good benefits for sure. Like for us, for bear hunting, we use them, and a lot of times, like, when then just in the baiting season before hunting, it not just to know what's around for bears, but it helps you know how heavy your bait's being hit. So if it's a more remote site that might be, 45-minute drive for us from here, then we're seeing, if 4 bears have been in all night long, we know we better get out there and bait tomorrow, because you can tell that that barrel's getting down empty, and it
Yeah.
benefits that way. But
And this is one of those things. I mean, this is what you guys do for a livelihood, so there are definitely some advantages there as far
yeah,
as being able to help you decide where to best use your time so that your clients
mhm,
are going to have the best opportunity at a bear when they get here.
yeah,
And I talk about opportunity a lot as my time has come through the Federation of Anglers and Hunters, and I often try to think about how does this help hunters become either a more effective, right? And how
yeah,
does it create additional opportunity? And I kind of use the Sunday hunting as my guide.
yeah,
Sunday hunting is about trying to get guys who are working 9 to 5 or whatever it is, Monday to
exactly.
Friday, and a lot of Saturdays.
Yep,
All of a sudden that Sunday, that extra day a week, while it's not going to do a whole lot for me, I get to hunt a lot regardless,
yeah,
because I don't have the same work schedule as a lot of guys out there. So when I try to think about opportunity, I think about Sunday hunting and what that means for new hunters and trying to get them out. I feel similarly about these cell cameras, because we've got a
yeah,
lot of guys and girls that are either have hunted or want to hunt, that are in the city, and they have these properties
yeah,
or opportunities on properties outside of they're I'd say an hour away or more, and they just can't run up 2 or 3 times a week to kind of figure out what's going on in that property. So the
yeah,
cell camera gives them that opportunity potentially for greater success, and we know with greater success, you're going to have guys and girls that are wanting to return to the woods season after season.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. When you guys use them, if I'm not, and I'm trying not to tell too many things at a school. I know you have a particular spot that you set one out. You don't have to tell where it is, but you took a canoe ride.
Yeah,
Um,
so I put 2 of them out. I put a Tacticam and a Spy Point in that one area.
right,
It's a 10-kilometer paddle in and 10 kilometers out. So
right.
I took it in back, I don't know, probably end of August, I think, or September, maybe somewhere around there. I paddled in, took a little bit of bait in just to see what was around.
Yep.
Had some bucks moved in, and then a bear and a sow cub moved in, and that was the end of my bait.
Yeah.
Now, ironically, just today, we had another bunch of pictures today of a buck standing in front of one of the Spy Point camera, and he's
Oh,
milling around. There's no bait there, but he's milling around through there.
yeah.
And of course, gives you hope, but it's still a 10-kilometer paddle in to get in there. But
Cool.
my plan was to go in there and do a 2 or 3 day hunt on a
Right.
remote site. Now, I
Yeah.
hopefully I will next year. I mean, obviously times ran out this year for me,
Yeah.
and I'll probably leave those cameras there. It'll probably spring now. I may get in this year before freeze up, but if not, then I'll get them in the spring. So
And there again, there we're talking about. Let's use the example of what BC has done. Um, you know, even though they've chosen for whatever reason, and I don't know what their reasons are. I mean, you can read, but it's such a small synopsis that you don't really understand the conversation that took place from reading it on the government website. But they've removed them from the hunting season, or being able to use them, to and again, I imagine that they feel like that some type of real time picture is removing the idea of fair chase.
yeah,
I'm assuming that's the argument. Not that I fully understand the argument. Um, for you, you've put that camera in there, and all you're really doing is this is just scouting for you,
yeah,
right?
just saves me a trip in.
Well, and you're
Yeah,
getting you're going to end up getting, what are we looking? I mean, you're going to get a year worth of scouting out of
yeah,
2 cameras pointed in very specific directions. It's not a lot of scouting, but it gives you an idea and
yeah,
lets you know whether or not the time that you have to hunt next year, if that's where you
yeah,
want to put some time
for
in
sure.
order to be successful. So
Well, now I think trail cameras in general, not just cell cameras, have changed the way we hunt.
Oh,
because that's it. You see a huge increase. When I was growing up, hardly anybody stand hunted that we knew. Everybody, walk and stalk
yeah.
and just still hunt. And now with technology, they want to see what's in the area. So we're putting cameras out over bait piles where we are here in Nova Scotia,
Well,
and
because we
then
still have
that's
baiting.
where we're
Absolutely.
hunting at, because that's where we're seeing the animals there. And how many of us are passing on animals that years ago, even if you were stand hunting that area, you would take that little 4 point or
So
basket rack one that you're going to pass because you got a big one coming in. That
yeah, without trying to tell too many, tales out of school.
yeah
There's a group of hunters that hunt up near me, and instead of dropping names and all that, but there's a group of hunters up near me, and they do love they they love their cell cameras. They love them, and they buy all of the little extra bits, the extra antennas and
yeah
boosters and all this stuff. And they're spending a lot of money on these things at local shops in
yeah
order to buy them. So they're doing it, great service to the local shops that are trying to stay open. And they put them out, and let's 5 or 6 guys hunting out of that camp, let's say, and there was only 2 deer shot out of
yeah.
that camp because
How many are they walk?
they've chosen to limit the bucks that they take
Yeah
to anything under 140 is a nay, let's say.
yeah
Whether there's a real consequence to shooting one under, or they're just all agreeing and that's what they're choosing to do. They'd rather see that 140 potentially be a 170 next year, right? And
for sure. Yeah
that's it's an interesting. It's different than I hunt. Very,
yeah
very, very different than I hunt. But they're doing that, and I'm thinking to myself, let's say there were 6 guys out of a hunting camp 20 years ago. Let's just use 20 years ago, without
yeah.
real cell cams no cell cams, and really not much of it. They used to have those.
No,
What
there's a little
those?
string on the tree
Yeah,
to give you time to
yeah,
something to walk by.
exactly. Yeah, most often you got another hunter than you did anything else. But like 20 years ago, there's a chance that if a 140 buck came out in front of a hunter, were they going to hope that they were going to see something bigger than 140, or did
Yeah
they just shoot the
yeah.
one? Did they just shoot the 140, if not something even smaller than that?
Oh yeah, and that's how it's changed the way we hunt for sure.
Right. So is that
Yeah.
better in your opinion, or potentially worse I mean, it's got to be better for the deer population, right?
Well, you'd think so. Yeah, there's way better experts on the topic than you or
Oh,
I, I'm sure. But
I agree
but I
100%.
mean, it definitely seems to be making a difference. I mean, this year here, and I say it every year, and I keep getting amazed by the size of the bucks coming out of this province. Like
Right.
when you look just on Facebook and stuff, the posts coming in, it's like
Yeah.
there's some monsters coming through that
Yeah. Well,
I don't remember that 10, 15 years ago.
Nat Chucks this year, they just finished off, and it was it's 187 and change. Was
Yeah,
was the biggest green score, right? And
yeah,
that's Teddy
belong,
Belong.
could
Yeah,
belong.
Teddy
Yeah,
Belong.
yeah,
I've met the gentleman, and actually, I did get to see that deer before it was gutted.
yeah.
That was a
Yeah, I see he won out of Young Guns too because he entered a bunch of the contests. He took the one
well,
of Young Guns as
yeah,
well.
yeah. So
That's a big deal.
Young Guns
Yeah.
in down Sambro. I think there's another one. Yeah, it was a big
But
deer.
Ted shoots big deer every year, and he's a prime example of letting deer walk, and he's
That's
waiting
it.
for those big ones. Like
Yeah,
he's patient.
yeah. Ted didn't
Yeah,
get one last year, but the camp got a few. And then
yeah,
his son was actually on the list with them at number 5.
yeah.
So
Saw
they
that.
were both on for a short time, and he just got bumped.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's saying something, man. That
Oh, for sure.
the only 2 deer
Yeah,
that camp shot were right, like number 1 and number 6 or 7. I can't
yeah.
remember where.
They're up there, and
Yeah,
there's some stiff competition this year too.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
for him
Oh
to get
yeah.
bumped down,
Well,
he was in second place for a bit, I think.
yeah,
And
that
yeah,
guy wouldn't have made it on the list,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
He
exactly.
would have just
Yeah,
been bumped. And I'm proud as all hell of that guy. So, yeah, some big deer, real big deer. And
yeah.
last year, I think there was, can you remember, was it a 200 or There was a
He
200
was up
shot
there.
last year. I'm not sure if it was in the Natchucks one though. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then I think there was a Kevin Nickerson who I've met before, and he shot a 170 last year.
Yeah.
Right. So
And some of the pictures on Facebook and stuff of guys that weren't even in the competitions this year that would have placed up there, if not won a lot of them. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So
big deer.
I don't think I don't know. I don't know where I come down. As far as I'm concerned right now, I'm not sure that cell cameras are hurting the deer herd. Like nobody's given me anything that makes me think that it's that the tool somehow is not good for deer populations because it's causing this, and this to happen as a cascade.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. The fair chase argument, the real time thing, I do have a bit of an issue with that. You know, if you've got a big apple pile and you're sitting at camp and the phone goes ding,
yeah,
and then you go out and you can get into a stand where you have a clear shot and you're a decent shot at 100 yards or more, because there are guys out there that can definitely shoot further than that ethically. And so you walk in quietly and you get your shot. I'm not sure how I feel about that myself.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how often that happens. I'm sure it does happen, but I don't know how often.
And that's exactly, Shan. You're going right where I'm trying to go. That as often as that might happen, if it happens, is it hurting the deer population? You know, if you want a Pope and Young or a Boone and Crockett scored deer, and they're choosing that if you use any type of real-time information that you're, well, that's between you and Boone and Crockett.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so I'm not entirely certain, again, what's going to come of all this. Once certain states and certain provinces start making decisions, there's a lot of provinces, much like ours, that just kind of follow suit rather than kind of do our own, education and research on things. And we're a have-not province, so we can't always do our own research. I don't want to kind of pick on Nova Scotia too much. We're limited, so we do have to kind of follow a lot of other research things that are going on. But as always, I worry that it's an emotional argument rather than a scientific one.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest.
I love using trail cameras, since in general, not even cell cameras, just any kind of trail camera. We put a lot of sites out that we'll never hunt. Yeah. We just put bait pile out, whether it be bear or deer, and put a camera on it. I love going in. I used to trap for years, and to me, it's like trapping. The same satisfaction you get from going in is like, oh, I don't know what's going to be on this, and then you pull it off, and and that's that monster buck you've been looking for, or that big giant bear, or whatever it be.
I love finding a new game trail and putting a camera on it. Now I don't use cell cameras, and I'll throw it out in the spring and just see what's traveling, up and down that. And I mean, to see bobcats and different bears and every time I see a fisher on camera, I'm like, whoa, that's wicked. I got a picture of a fisher, these kinds of things. Got pictures of those nocturnal flying squirrels. That wasn't what I was planning on getting on camera, but you get those things, and it's wicked. I do enjoy the use of trail cameras. They do,
and it's fun to watch the animals develop year after year, whether it be a bear or deer. Like to see it, my cousin Marcus Keogh, like every year he keeps track of all his bucks, and he'll show them the picture year after year how much that buck's grown. Like, and they'll target certain ones.
Nemesis was 4 years that I had pictures of him. Right, never found a shed, but I had pictures of him. I find it helps me connect. It helps me interested all season rather than just in the hunting season. I've got my cameras out all year. I'm going to check them all year long. When I'm fishing, often, a trail camera will go someplace along with me when I'm fishing to if I see a crossing across the brook or whatever the case might be. So, Well,
and that's the thing with cell cameras. I always said that's the one that is instant regret that you didn't hunt that site. When you have multiple sites,
Yeah.
and you're sitting in one other site, and then your phone goes ding, and you look, and it's like, that was the site I was gonna hunt today, and there he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least with a regular
instead of
cell
that,
camera, you don't know until a few days later.
exactly. Exactly.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
why didn't I hunt that one?
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation. I'm trying to keep these to about a half hour or 40 minutes, and I think we just kind of went by half an hour.
Okay.
I think it's interesting to start these conversations and just be open and honest about how we're using them and how we would like to see them used. And because I would prefer that our community talk about it and have the discussion so that we can try to direct, and be ready to answer the questions. Because if someone just, kind of gets it in their head that somehow a cell camera is cheating, even though they may never have hunted, they may never have hunted. They just, oh my goodness, you get a real time, da 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 da. No, that's not hunting. And there are going to be hunters that feel that way too. And I don't begrudge them. There are definitely hunters out there that don't think that any trail camera should be used at all.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have those guys. Those guys are out there, and that's I respect that. That's how they choose to hunt, and that's I just hope that perhaps by having these conversations, they can also try to understand and respect perhaps what it is that guys that are using them are trying to do and trying to achieve,
Sure.
and together come up with what's right for the deer population and for hunting in our community, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. And I appreciate you talking to me tonight. We won't go too much longer. Shan, I will absolutely be on to talk to me about other things in the future. I hope you don't mind doing that.
I wear too many hats not talking about different subjects.
Well, the idea is hopefully this is going to be fun, right? And
Sure.
try to have conversation, not overly political, if that's the word that we'll use, more about real, honest conversations about what we're doing. And then later, talk about some of the big bucks or big bears or some of the stories about having, because people want to hear those, because there's opportunity for everyone to learn from everyone else, whether an older experienced hunter who's had 40 years in the woods, or the guy that last year hunted for the first time and somehow managed to take a 170 buck. He did something right. So let's find out, and let's share those stories and celebrate those stories, right? And I think, hopefully, I hope that episodes like this in the future are going to help us have those conversations. And so this is probably going to get posted. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to go YouTube and then post YouTube links, or if I'm just going to go straight on the Facebook page. I don't know. I'll figure that out tomorrow probably, and then get this posted. But I want everybody who's listened to write a comment. I think we really need to hear from everyone on this. Keep it civil. I always say that. It doesn't always happen, but do try to keep and you can 100% agree, 100% disagree, or give us a little bit of an idea about some medium ground that we haven't considered or discussed. Because I'm kind of transitioning out and away from the Federation as past president, but I'm always going to be within the bow hunting community. I'm always going to try and do everything I can and work with the Federation for many, many, many more years. And Shan is coming in as interim president. And as I understand it, we're assuming that if we have an AGM in the spring, that you've considered throwing your name into the hat to become permanent president. So let Shan know, let us know what it is that you think about this particular subject. And if you want to talk to Shan about something else, let me know and I'll have him on and we'll talk about another subject that perhaps somebody has thrown at us and maybe they're interested again, because you're a guy
in the hot seat.
well, not, but maybe it'll be about butchering, right? I mean, you've got some great videos about butchering. And I don't. I'm not I can clean and skin and do all that stuff, but then I do take mine to a butcher and have it processed by them. You do that all on your own. So if there are questions like that, you're also I mean, you fish quite a bit. You were down Cape Breton this year doing salmon fishing with Sally. How
Salmon
successful?
fishing, not catching.
Yeah, exactly. But how did you do that? How did you pick? All kinds of great things that we can always talk about. So I want to say thank you. Next time, maybe we'll have you and your lovely wife Sally on, or maybe we'll just get rid of your ugly mug altogether and just have Sally on. I can hear her laughing in the background. Oh, thank you, Shan. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. No problem. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'm down here. Spoke with Shan last night. Again, I want to thank him very much for his time. It's the next morning, and I'm here trying to do some editing. Thank you for hanging on till the end, if you've made it to the end. I'm going to keep these things, like I said, around half hour, 45 minutes. I enjoy this. If you guys enjoy it, please let me know. Please put some comments down. Let's have some discussion. I want to thank Shan. We'll have him on again. If you have some ideas about what you might like to see Shan on to talk about in a future episode, by all means, let me know. I'm reaching out to some other people, so we'll have some new episodes soon enough. I'm not going to do a weekly thing, or I'm just, whenever someone wants to talk, I'll put out a new episode. I'm going to try and put this onto YouTube, and then I'm going to share the YouTube link on the Facebook page. So come along and follow me on the Facebook page as well, To the Woods. And so this was a lot of fun. My editing skills will get better over time, but this is what I've got for now, and I'm enjoying it. So let me know what you guys think. To the Woods.